Hello, it's Red. Welcome back to the garden. Today I wanted to give you all a really in-depth tour of my entire garden. We've been living here for about 6 months now, and I feel like the garden is finally set up and ready to be shown to the world. After months of constantly checking Zillow, we finally landed this beautiful Spanish-style cottage in uptown San Diego. When we toured it for the first time, I couldn't believe how lucky we got. On first glance from the street, it was so hard to miss all the details in the front yard. You have the tile work, the front patio pergola, the metal fence with the jasmine vines growing all in it. And as a gardener, I was so impressed by the landscaping. As we walk around the entire yard, anything that's in the ground was already there when we moved in. And all the potted plants are mine that I've been hauling around San Diego for about the last 8 years. So let's jump right into the tour. About 6 months ago, back in February, I went around and planted sunflower seeds around the yard. So you'll see those intermixed throughout. Some of them have grown really tall and some of them have stayed kind of small for some reason. Right as you walk up the front steps, you'll come across the first little collection of plants. We have a Joshua tree, a sago palm, some succulents, and the neighborhood favorite, the cat pot. And to ward off any criminals, we put our entire cactus collection here on a bench as you walk up to the front door. I'm not the biggest fan of growing cacti, but over the years I've collected some really cool ones. My favorite one is in the middle. It's called a California barrel cactus. It's the circular one that has kind of a pink tint to it. And one thing I really fell in love with as I got gardening was ponytail palms, and I found a handful of really cool ones that you'll also see throughout the garden. I just wanted to showcase this corner of the landscaping in the yard. The way they used the fountain as a succulent planter was right up my alley, and I can't wait to get in there and refresh it and make it look a little bit better and try to get it level. So I've been gardening most of my life, but all the plants you see here are part of a collection that I've been building for about the last 7 years. Most of the collection is made up of different types of succulents, a handful of cacti, some evergreens. Also, you'll see right there how tall that sunflower has gotten, and I can't wait to see when it blooms. As we walk around the front yard, I just really love how they use the foxtail ferns, the different types of irises, and the succulents intermixed all together. And briefly, you'll see a Medusa head in that really shallow pot, and that is one of my favorite succulents in the whole yard. Over the years, I've got my plants from estate sales, garage sales, clippings from friends, bought them at the nursery, a little bit of everything. I really just love all the unique plants we have intermixed throughout the landscape, and check out this plumeria plant that's, as far as we know, it's been in the yard for at least 50 years. It did give off a beautiful bloom about 2 months ago. Again, just these giant cacti around the yard are just such an awesome addition to all of the potted plants that we brought in. The split leaf philodendron here is a project that I have in progress. I want to take it out and try to split it apart into different plants. You'll see another ponytail palm there, and this guy right here is a native milkweed. I love providing food to the monarchs. It's not looking that good because the caterpillars have been going crazy on it in the last couple of weeks. Here's our little corner of herbs that we got going. I still haven't found a good place in the yard for them, but that's the beauty of having everything in pots, is you can try it for a little bit here and then move it to see if it gets better sunlight, if it's too hot with all the concrete below it, just see what works with it. So inside this philodendron, I've had this plant for probably 7 years. I got it from a neighbor of mine when he passed away, and I actually found that big pot for him. And then since then I've thrown in different succulent clippings, some bromeliads. And here we got the gate to our side yard. And of course it's not just a gate, it has to be a adobe archway. I absolutely love it. We got some more cacti everywhere. Clearly I've been on a cacti kick in the last couple of years. So as we walk down the side yard, we got our little potting station with all the extra pots lined up right there, ready to go. We've got these big jade plants that I've pruned up when we first moved in. And my philosophy for gardening is chaos gardening. I like to just throw a bunch of stuff together, see if it fits, see if it grows, see if it mends well with each other, and if it doesn't, I'll just move it all around. And that's the beauty of container gardening. It's never static. You don't have to plant it and think, okay, this has to look good for 5 years. You can literally change it next month if you wanted to. Here we have a little moment with some concrete faces I've done. It's actually a cast of mine and my girlfriend's face. We got my Burrow's tail cactus that I love so much, and every time I have to move it or repot it, it loses hundreds of its petals. And we have a ficus tree that I've been trying to shape into a heart, and it's really hard because the leaves are too big. I need something like a boxwood to really be able to see it. It only looks like a heart when I first trim it, and then after a week it's gone. Right next to it we have a staghorn fern that I've been killing and reviving for the last couple of years. I finally found a good shady place for it in this yard, so I think it'll grow for a while now. Here we have the wheelbarrow planter, and this was actually a pallet planter that my sister gave me that it wasn't really doing that well, so I took apart the pallet, threw all the clippings in this wheelbarrow that I got from a client that they were going to throw out, and I just love the way it's turned out. I do need to give it a good refresh soon, but that'll be in a video coming up in the next couple of weeks. And here we've got the 12 different arrangements that I repotted recently a couple weeks ago in a video. They're doing pretty good. You can see that one is tipping over. I need to kind of re-tie it up so that way it can grow strong roots and hold itself up in the future. But I absolutely love having all these little plants right next to the patio where we sit and hang out with our friends. I love incorporating more things than just plants in the garden, so you've seen a lot of mirrors, there's a door, a lot of rocks, a lot of wood tones, interesting pots. I love just adding all these little things, so every time you look at the garden there's something there that you may not have noticed the first time you looked at it. The arrangement with the seeing eye there, that's the first arrangement I ever planted 8 years ago when I lived down by the beach. It's still going strong. Here's another perspective of the backyard. And funny story about that blue door, it's actually from a client's house of mine, and I supposedly broke one of the panes of the weed whacker. I still don't think I did it, but he says that I did it. It's all good though. I told him I would take it away for him for free, and now it's been part of my garden for the last 4 years. Here we got a really clover-filled cactus garden. It's so hard to get the clover out of there. I'll just pull the leaves off and they'll eventually grow back every couple weeks, but not much you can do about that. If you haven't noticed already, I absolutely love putting mirrors around the garden. It really opens up the space and just adds a nice little touch that is an eye catcher when you're looking through everything. Here we have the original bonsai jade plant I've done. I actually got this from the same neighbor that I got the split leaf philodendron from, two of the largest plants I own, but I have moved them to 3 different houses now because I just can't give them up. I really love the wood frame window pane that I found on the side of one of my old houses I rented. And again, you know, there's rocks, seashells, different ornaments around the yard. Some may think it's clutter. I just like making fairy gardens everywhere. This little table of bonsai jade plants are actually from a friend of mine who recently moved out of San Diego, and I'm now taking care of them for him. I got him hooked on gardening at the beginning of the pandemic, and he made a beautiful little courtyard garden at his house. And then we have a monstera that I'm trying to grow outside. We can do that here in San Diego. A lot of the plants in this corner of the yard are the ones that I don't really know what to do with them yet. I'm thinking about repotting them, kind of just a holding place for them until I find a better, more permanent spot for them in the yard. Some giant plants that have been growing in this yard for who knows how long. And then we have the pallet planter. Again, for the last 8 years, one of the original planters that I've since actually made a handful of these and sold them to people, given them to friends, given them to family. It's doing well in this corner of the yard, but it definitely needs some TLC. I have not touched it since we've moved in. Just another thing for the to-do list. These 3 succulent pots are all very similar in that the succulents kind of hang over the side. They have arms that reach and curl and just give really funky movement and have a really cool look to them. Thanks for hanging out and taking a tour of my garden. Since gardens are ever changing and the gardening never really ends, I think I might do this maybe once a month or once every few months to kind of just see how the plants are growing, how the yard's evolving, and how everything's doing. Thanks again for stopping by and following me along the gardening journey, guys.